Well, you certainly have been hearing in the news recently about changes, more of them at Battle Creek Unlimited. And Dillon Davis at the Battle Creek Enquirer has been covering that story, and he's here today with us. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Richard.
Thanks for the time today.
Yeah, I'm glad I could put my phone away from catching Pokemon all week so we could get together.
You've been playing that too?
Yeah, I don't know. I downloaded it.
Nico had to explain it to me yesterday. And I turned around after that explanation, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, there was a group downtown just walking around yesterday. It was good to see young people downtown, I guess.
Well, yeah, right. Gets people moving around if they're inclined to be.
Yeah.
So where do we stand today with the Battle Creek Unlimited story? I mean, we know that they're now looking for another new leader.
Obviously, Battle Creek Unlimited, the private nonprofit chartered by the city, and they get millions of dollars of taxpayer money every year to handle the city's economic development efforts for the Fort Custer Industrial Park and the complex out there. Their CEO, President Marie Briganti, resigned abruptly. This has been about 2 weeks now. And she, really, I'd heard some rumblings that this might be coming down the pipeline, and we got the message late Friday. And I believe it was the first that she was leaving, and have not heard from her. I think the organization is kind of in flux right now.
Well, and we certainly know that there'd been changes, but yes, this is the second leadership change in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think there's some interest right now. I think they've promoted their Vice President Joe Soborowski, who was hired in November for that position, to lead them in the interim, while John Gallagher and the BCU board initiates the search. I think there's quite a few questions right now in terms of what that's going to look like and the structure, and I think that's still to be determined. But they're actively. I think they're looking for the next one.
Yeah, I think one of the initial stories I read that you'd written was that they were still working on the interim choice, and so obviously that's done now.
Yep, like I said, Soborowski was brought on by Marie in November. Then she hired another vice president. I want to say in February, Amy DePrez, and they've been working with her, up until very recently. And Marie's departure leaves a little bit of a void, and I think that the VCU right now is looking at, trying to find the next person that's going to be a good fit. And I think the city is very conscious of that next person as well, because they see BCU and the BC TIFA as this very big entity that has a lot of tools and resources, and has a history of economic development, and they've had two CEOs in a row now resign. So it's trying to there's just a very sense of making sure that the next one is the right one and somebody that they can stand for the long term.
Dillon Davis is here, Battle Creek Enquirer. We're talking about Battle Creek Unlimited, and we'll take this break and come right back on WBCK 830. Show. We're here with Dillon Davis, Battle Creek Enquirer. Battle Creek Unlimited changes out there. So what do we know about the process here now? I mean, typically in a situation like this, we presume that there is a somewhat regimented process you go through to try and attract candidates and cast a wide net. Maybe it's a nationwide net to try and find the right person. Is that your sense about what's going to happen here?
At this point, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the process is going to look like yet, and I'm not sure that they know either.
Yeah.
Last time Battle Creek Unlimited looked for a CEO, they had 40 board members, and they went on the search, and they worked with the Miller Foundation and tried to find the right person, and I think they thought they did. This time around, they've got they whittled the board down to ideally 15 members. I think they have 12 right now is what they have, and I think that process is still to be determined. I think the city's involved because there's taxpayer dollars involved in its handling economic development efforts for this area. They want to make sure that the next one is going to be the right one. And I think that there's kind of a wind of trying to figure out if that's going to be the case.
Right. And we presume that there could be some concern. Maybe you've heard some of this. If you're a candidate and you're interested in a position like this and you're qualified for it, that when you look at the fact that they've lost a leader twice in the last 2 years, you say maybe there's some instability there. Have you picked up any of those kinds of concerns out there?
I spoke with the city manager, Rebecca Fleury, right around the time this happened, and I asked her if there was any concern after, if there was, because they've turned over two in a row, and she said no. I think there's a concern anytime that you are recruiting somebody for a very important position, I think you're always looking for the right person and the right match. They haven't found it in a couple of years. And I think that there's. I think she said that it's heightened a little, but I think that they're trying to figure out what the recruitment process is going to look like, and try to find that next person that can communicate well in the community and somebody that can recruit companies and bring in jobs and lead some of the efforts that are going on around here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tricky proposition sometimes, and sometimes you don't know if you have the right person until they're here. But boy, you'd sure like to feel 100% confident that you have that person before they start. But especially in a situation like this where there are.
Well, it's not to say also that Marie was the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she had a lot of positive traits that she brought to the job at Battle Creek Unlimited. But I think that as the time went along, I think that they wanted to find something else. I think that just the fit wasn't what they thought. I think she had left a lot to be desired in terms of communications with the news media, for example, or working, just kind of just communicating with city people and just trying to find the right fit there. I don't know. I think the next person, I think they have a kind of a blueprint. They're looking. There's just things that they weren't even considered before that will be able to be considered at this point.
Yeah, and as they always say, that which has happened gives you a clearer view than maybe what you can see going forward. But what insofar as you're able to talk about it, what was your experience? You referenced the news media access. What was the challenge there?
I would say that it was a tenuous relationship in terms of communication with the news media. I think that there was a sense, among the organization to bring the Enquirer in and and try to develop a relationship, and then it seemed just hot and cold depending on the day, and I think that's challenging. That's a really difficult situation. And midway through her tenure, they hired a public relations firm out of Grand Rapids to handle their efforts. And then there seemed to be kind of some confusion whether their public relations firm was going to be the main point of contact or if they were. Mm-hmm. She also was not, her staff was not communicating with us because I think that she did not want them to. And that's the sense that I've gotten. I certainly, for example, I had asked to do a story on the arrival of Joe Soborowski and Amy DePrez, and she declined. She said no, and that's a layup. I think when you're trying to promote your staff and your efforts, that seems easy, it was a no.
There is certainly a school of thought for folks who may not realize it that the notion is in public relations, you have an opportunity every time the media reaches out to you, or even when they don't, to try and put information out there that might be helpful to you.
The situation with Arcadia is another one that
sure.
Put something out on that Arcadia took a shot at BCU after years and years of frustration from both sides, and they decided to not respond right away and said they kind of gave a generic statement that they issued and then turned around and then put something on Facebook a couple of days later that said that it was harmful to Arcadia, quite frankly. So, it's I think that you kind of now have a blueprint of things. It's kind of a more clear picture of what you do not want in that position.
Yeah.
What they do want, I think, still is to be determined, but I think that you see some things to grow and to change, and, I hope the board is cognizant of that.
We're talking with Dillon Davis, Battle Creek Enquirer. He's been covering the Battle Creek Unlimited story. We'll take a break and come back in just a second with more. We're here with Dillon Davis, Battle Creek Enquirer, has been covering the Battle Creek Unlimited story. Insofar as you've been able to uncover, some of the changes that happened under Marie Briganti's leadership included the transfer of downtown development back to the city. That was one of the early things that went on after everybody got their footing. She arrived, and Rebecca Fleury arrived, and all of those things began to be evaluated. Is it your sense, based on what you've been learning, that will stay that way?
I can't see a situation where it changes in terms of, if you're talking about downtown development and this sort of thing. I think they have a developer with John Hart right now that they're satisfied with, and I think they should be. He's doing a lot with Ted Deering and trying to do retention and recruitment efforts, and I think that's where it's going to stay. I think Marie came in. My understanding from talking to the board and John Gallagher was that Marie kind of came in with a stacked house. She came in. The task was to kind of pare down the board, and many volunteered to leave. I think she had to get rid of some other ones, and I think it's just trying to find the right mix for their board. And I don't know, 40 is just a huge board. I can't think of any board that large.
Right.
So
yeah, that is a tremendous amount of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to get a consensus on something, that can be kind of tough. But the notion is that while this is going on, all this I hesitate to call it instability, but all this change that's going on is happening at the same time that you're trying to still keep your eye on the prize and attract new development to the area. Now, there was a report fairly recently, probably yours, that evaluated and expanded on the latest report about how successful Battle Creek Unlimited has been at doing that in the Fort, for example. And, it's kind of so-so, isn't it?
I think that's fair to say. But I think that there are many intricacies, and I think that it's not black and white.
Uh-huh.
I think that you may not see the fruits of some of the things that Marie and her staff did under her leadership for a while. But I think with what you have here, I think people want to see more. They want to see more jobs. They want to see growth, and they want to hear about the growth. They don't want to just have it just happen. And and if you're working with the companies and you want to share these things, you're able to. I think economic development's a difficult game, though. It's hyper competitive. It's there's kind of the mix between the regional approach and the very local approach, which they have. So it's just, I think it's a difficult game. You might not see the fruit of everything that she's done, for a while. But where it stands, I think you're right on that.
Anybody who's listening who works in sales knows that that's how that works. You don't just walk in and close a deal, particularly a big one, on the first visit. And so you're right. There's probably some groundwork that's been laid that is still working with the momentum that it has, and they'll try to build on that. But we've heard on multiple occasions. We talked with Brenda Hunt not long ago, deeply involved in BC Vision, of course, steering committee member, who pointed out, hey, listen, we've lost jobs. Those which we've gained have not been at the same level that those that we've lost. So there's pressure here, isn't there?
Oh, and I think Brenda is right. And Brenda is someone that she's led an organization for a long time, so she generally gets how to communicate and recruit. I mean, it's different. It's a different line of work in general, but I mean, it's a similar skill set, I think. And I think they just haven't had. Marie would talk about getting the wins and trying to find victories and this sort of thing. And I think there wasn't the number that they wanted. They just they were unable to verify some of these things, and I think that's difficult. I think people want to see concrete numbers, and they want to see for example, when you make a presentation to the city commission, they want to see where those jobs are coming from. Where is that investment coming from?
Right.
And I think there's some of it operates in secrecy, but the stuff that's closed shouldn't be a secret. Put that out in the open. Let them know what you're doing. Beat your chest a little bit if you feel like you're doing a good job. And if the companies are expanding and they don't want you to know about it, I think that seems weird. It seems like they would want to talk about it. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
So as far as your coverage of this and from what you can see, what's next? There's probably not a timeline out there yet for.
I haven't heard a timeline yet.
Yeah.
I think that obviously this is trying to develop what the search process is going to look like. As we said, I think the next one is important, and I think they realize that, and they want to make sure that they hit and they have somebody that's going to be here in the long term that can at least transition a very new staff, which Marie hired during her time, which was another task that she was put in, and transition this into what the organization is going to look like, and how their efforts are going to evolve and change as the market does.
All right. Well, we'll be waiting to see, and we'll be following your coverage.
Oh, great.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Dillon Davis, Battle Creek Enquirer on WBCK.